But as you've seen the emergence in every industry, but especially in franchising, the AI-powered business performance coaching, the AI, analytics, the need for, network level comparative analysis between unit level to unit level, location to location. We work with people like entities like Profit Keeper, QVinci, Harmonize. So as we're the financial data hub and we have the reporting and the clean data, they take it to the next level as part of that value continuum of this franchise financial intelligence to be able to bring it to life. Bring it to life for the franchisor, bring it to life for the franchisee, where they're really adding tools and features and capabilities to, again, bring the value and the actions out of that static data that may or may not be reviewed today, and bring it to the forefront of the franchisor and of the franchisee in terms of like cold, hard value. If you do this, you can get this many dollars. That's very powerful, and I think that that's new.
Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, where we talk about all things franchising. Now, here's your host, Dr. John P. Hayes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Franchise Hot Seat. I'm your host, John Hayes. I'm the Titus Chair for Franchising at Palm Beach Atlantic University, and happy to bring you these messages through YouTube and other social media channels. My guest today is a member of the Titus Center Advisory Board, Gil Marques, who is also a mumbo. I've only had a couple of mumbos on my podcast, Gil. What is a mumbo? Well, those are multi-unit, multi-brand operators. And we'll get into that with Gil, find out what are his brands, what does he operate, in addition to being the co-founder of KTA Financial Services. And I particularly love this part, when I can do an interview with someone who is solving a problem. And very clearly, Gil, you found out as you became a mumbo that it was difficult to get clean and reliable financial information about your businesses from bookkeepers who are good bookkeepers, but not bookkeepers who know about franchising and what's important in franchising. So you are solving that problem. And this also becomes a franchise financial intelligence interview with you, Gil. I like that as well. So, Gil, welcome to my podcast. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Hayes, for having me. It actually is pronounced Gil Marques. It's tough to pronounce the last name like that, but, short correction there. But thank you so much for having me.
I would have never guessed that. I've been calling you Gil Marques for 5 years or more.
That's okay. As long as you don't call me late for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I feel too. I would have never guessed that one required, is generally when I see a name, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And I don't know that I'm going to remember your Mark. It's not Marquez, but that's good to know. All right.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we are solving complex problems. I've done that for many years in my life. And as you said, I am a mumbo. My wife and I, we're in corporate America. We were former corporate C-suite executives. And like many others that got into franchising, we were, approached by a broker. We had a number of different investment opportunities within franchising. I think the entrepreneurship bug had us there. We ran big businesses for corporations, and we thought that it was a good time to kind of diversify, and franchising was a great spot for us because we didn't have the time to build it ourselves. So we got into franchising. We did open a few locations of the Now Massage boutique based out of LA, fast growing brand there. We were actually number 15 to open in that brand, and now they're approaching almost 100 locations nationwide. So fantastic growth there. And then via acquisition a few years ago, we actually purchased Salons by JC, which is a salon suite rental franchise. They have over 150 locations in the United States, and that got us into franchising and really put us into that entrepreneurial hot seat, pun intended here, that really got us into the role of running these businesses, operating these businesses, whilst having 3 children or family and 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah, and what did you know about franchising when you got into the massage business?
I honestly, to be totally honest, I'm an engineer, like a data kind of tech operations guy. I knew nothing. I thought about McDonald's. Honestly, I feel like a lot of people would think about that, and it wasn't until I started doing deep research, critically think about the opportunities and really, expanding my knowledge on franchising. I was like, okay, I get it. This makes a lot of sense. Then we started down that path and pursuing this as an opportunity.
So, on a disc profile, an engineer is usually the C in the disc profile, the conscientious type. They want to know the numbers. They want to know the facts. Engineers only deal with facts, which is a good thing, or buildings would be crumbling all around us. Usually when engineers look at franchising, they say no to it. First thing is, franchisor is going to say, well, I need to have your social security number. I'm not going to give you my social security. I need to have your banker's name, and I'm not going to give you my bank information. Yeah. How was it that an engineer came around to say, yeah, I can go along with what they need in franchising?
Yeah, that's great. It's an astute observation by you. So I'm actually a DC on that disc analysis. Right. And I think the D is what brings it in. When you lead your teams and you're driving towards the results, and you do have that analytical base, that brought in a little flavor of, what else may be true, right? Yes, franchising, that's absolutely true about those things, right? But within the context of that model, number one, is the model robust? So what's the repeatability around the model? So if you're growing and opening versus having like a bunch of snows out there that have yet to be opened, well, like different things like that can pique my interest in terms of problem solving. And then when you start uncovering, okay, well, that risk is now mitigated and this risk is now mitigated, you open up some opportunities in franchising. That's exactly what happened to us.
Okay. So it makes sense that a DC, the C portion of your personality, bookkeeping, franchise financial intelligence makes sense for Gil Marques being an engineer in his background. But were you always in bookkeeping, accounting, franchise financial intelligence? Was that always important to you?
It really wasn't. As we went forth in the venture of opening these and operating them, my wife and I, when I say we, her role became more of employee relations, guest relations, marketing, kind of front office activities.
She has the I personality in the disc scale.
Exactly. That's 100%. And she's much better liked and better looking than I am. Fair enough. Yeah. So my job was all the back office things. So think about payroll and things like bookkeeping. So of course, like that, lends well to where I feel my comfort zone is, again, with my background. So as we were doing this, lo and behold, I had great partners, and I leaned on suppliers in the franchise world to help me. I had a full-time job, right? I need good payroll partners. I need good accounting, bookkeeping partners for me to be able to manage this business, effectively and reach the desired outcomes that we had on the page in terms of goals and objectives. And quite honestly, in the first 9 months, transparently, to your point, probably great bookkeepers, but I really had a hard time getting a P&L, getting a balance sheet that was timely, that was accurate, that I could actually sink my teeth into and analyze and be able to identify those opportunities for improvement to change the profitability of the business in a positive way. And after the third time and 9 months, I simply couldn't fly blind anymore. And I took an approach to, yes, I don't know accounting, but I do know operational prowess and repeatability and Lean Six Sigma and understanding designing systems such that the outcome of timeliness and accurate data could be achieved on a very highly consistent or repeatable basis. So that's exactly what we did. I get the smartest people in the world to come with me and believe in this. And I think that they've done a great job at building kind of that franchise financial intelligence, which I think is kind of a new term that we're building and pioneering here, because it goes beyond just the data, right? Like clean data on a P&L for a bunch of franchisees is very, very valuable, but for many of them it's not, because they don't know how to glean the information from that.
Yeah. Franchisees, including me, as I've been a franchisee through the years, the financial intelligence is not my strong suit, shamefully. It's not the strong suit for many, many franchisees, particularly because on the disc scale, they are D dominant or driver personalities who want to get things done, or they are I personalities. They're friendly, they're outgoing, they love talking to customers, they love pleasing people, but we tend not to pay enough attention to the financial information. And yet, what makes franchising so different? Franchise is business. Business is business. If a bookkeeper can provide a good P&L to the average business that's not franchised, or a good business that's not franchised, what's so special about franchising, Gil, that you needed something else?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a lot of the system mentality and the structure around which the FDD is created and the requirements and the compliance of such. So I think about examples of like chart of account standardization. So in a franchise system, it's very important as you're looking at financial reporting that you have an apples to apples view, that you have a standard schema of like everybody's using the same accounts, they're using the same accounts the same way and correctly and accurately. And when you introduce variation to that, it undermines the credibility of the data and then everything that you want to do to it. So when you think about the financial intelligence of a franchise and a franchisor saying, I need to expand my brand, I need to increase probability of my Z level, unit level performance, I need to have better validation calls, I need to have a stronger item 19. All of these things are incumbent upon having that foundational data asset, and many folks quite honestly put it as a lower priority in franchise systems. You'd think about bookkeeping and financial reporting, it's really not on the top of everybody's list of what to do. Yeah.
But, you know, the more we talk about this, I generally speak to people who want to become franchisees. But this is really a franchisor problem, because if the chart of accounts isn't exactly the same across the network, then there is no apple to apple comparisons. And a guy like you, not everybody's a mumbo. The minority of franchisees own multiple units and brands, but you're not going to get good information. But the majority of franchisees, can they get good information?
I think that on one side, you have the franchisor problem they're trying to solve, but at the end of the day, when the rubber meets the road, a franchisee operating a business that has the desire and the goal to drive profitability, make money on the investment that you've made, right? Without that information, without that clean data, regardless of schema and all those other problems, but without timely and accurate data and information, if I gave you your books 3 months late and you're now trying to react to that, well, that lagged information is going to lead to less than ideal results. So making sure that the Z's understand the power of that. They also have the resources they need to learn. We're kicking off KTA Academy, similar to your YouTube channel, where we have resources out there where folks can understand and appreciate how to read a P&L, how to read a balance sheet. Where do I click to learn about these things? What are the different variables that I can affect to really drive profitability? Not a full-fledged economics course, but something where people can sink their teeth into, a short watch. They can learn something, they can poke around, and they can engage either us or the franchisor to drive the outcomes that they desire.
Yeah, okay, I get that. I remember years back when I got into franchising, and I was on the board of directors of the Dwyer Group, which today is known as Neighborly, the largest home service franchise company in the world. And back then, Dwyer had about 6 or 7 home service brands: Mr. Electric, Mr. Rooter, AirServe, etc. And there was a gentleman in maybe Chicago or Detroit who was Italian heritage, and always was kind of apologizing for himself because he maybe had a high school education at best, I'm not sure. And what a wonderful guy he was. And he was the #1 franchisee in a couple of those Dwyer brands. And people would flock to him at the convention, the annual family reunion of the Dwyer Group, to say, how do you do this? What are you doing that we're not doing to make so much money? And he would smile and simply say, well, let me ask you some questions. And the questions would always be about numbers. How many phone calls do you get per week? How many trucks do you have on the road? And franchisees couldn't answer a lot of these questions. And he would get frustrated, and he would say, I'll tell you what, you really ought to go home now. There's nothing at the family reunion for you. Everything you need to know to make more money as a franchisee is back at your office, wherever that might be. You need to know your numbers. And he didn't even get into the financial side, but he knew the financial side very, very well. I think that across the board, we attract people into franchising who realize there's a numbers component to being successful. You've got to know something about money, and you've got to know something about the KPIs of your business. But,
Absolutely.
franchisees quickly get buried in some problem, maybe a customer problem, maybe a problem with the city. They're going to close your store for 3 months because they're going to tear up the sidewalk or whatever it might be. And we lose sight of the fact that from day one, you better be counting, well, not pennies anymore because we don't have those, but nickels and dimes for sure.
Certainly.
So
Absolutely.
this is an oversight. But again, we got to go back to say, hey, you, franchisor, this is your job to emphasize the importance of keeping track of the numbers. And franchisors, by and large, they don't do a good job of that. Many times they don't do a good job of this.
It's true. And I think it comes down to prioritization. So when you really think about it, what's important? What are the critical few things? The CTQs, right? Like what are the things that you're going to focus on as a business? And when it comes down to AI and all these other, sexy things that are coming out and, it's great and exciting. And they're trying to, put applications of that so that they can resonate with, new prospective franchisees to flock to their brand. But really, again, it comes down, and as a former offensive lineman, it comes down to the blocking and tackling, honestly. Like, you got to have that foundation if you're going to build off of that everywhere else. And nobody likes to call the offensive line's name, but if they do a bad job, they do, right? So it's very, very important that we get this right for both sides.
Yeah. So what is it that you got wrong as a franchisee? What do most franchisees get wrong when it comes to thinking about their financials?
I have a lot of things that I've done wrong, Dr. Hayes, and had opportunities to learn from. But I think the thing about the financials is to try to get to perfection, right? It's like perfection is the enemy of good. And when you have some folks are focused so heavily on, well, this transaction is categorized as repair and maintenance, but really it should be over here in this category, and less on my labor percentage as a function of revenue should be 30%, let's say, and I'm at 35. How do I get those other 5%? What are the best practices in the network? How do I compare myself to the network? How am I using analytics to see where I stack up? How am I taking those best practices and implementing them into my business? And less about, well, it said I made this and I really made that. It's more about, again, it's what are the actions that are being driven out of this data, this information that you're being given, rather than being, I would say, analysis paralysis by looking at all the P&L and seeing all the sea of numbers and getting lost in it. It can really get you down a rabbit hole quickly.
Yeah, and franchisees easily get caught up in rabbit holes, and they don't know it. They don't understand what a rabbit hole is, and they see it as a necessity because in many cases, going back to Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth, which we teach in our franchise program at the Titus Center, if you're working in the business, you don't really have a business. You have a job. You're taking care of things. You're fixing the equipment. You're actually on the truck. You're going to go unplug the customer's toilet, which needs to be done, but not by you. You've got to be working on the business, and numbers is where you work on the business. But if you're not a C personality, you don't even like numbers. So, what do you do about that? How do you help?
Yeah.
How does a franchisor, which is really, again, where this responsibility is, how do you help franchisees? What do you do?
I think that's what we're doing at KTA. I love that question because part of our job and what I think differentiates us at what we're trying to do, first of all, we're franchise specific. We only work with franchises. We don't work with other small businesses. We don't provide these services to anybody. So we're a mission-driven company. We literally were only invented because I literally needed it myself. I'm client number 1, number 2, number 32, and number 74 on the KTA platform. So what we're building here is not just for me, but it's as we look at the Z population and everybody out here, how do we help them? How do we help the Zors? Well, I think bridging the gap, it's yes, we need clean books. Yes, we need accurate financials. And yes, we need them timely in the first 10 days of the month following so that they can react to this information. But we also have to give them tools where we're meeting them where they are. How do we leverage AI to distill this information down off of these P&Ls and balance sheets to give you kind of the three overarching bullets to say, here you go, right? Here's your balance sheet, here's your P&L, here are your financials, but also here are the top 5 things that you should probably take a look at. Revenue, or, heavy expenses in office supplies this month, or, major repairs and maintenance. Did you know about, things like that, where they can take it in layman's terms in some short, consumable type of information packages that everybody receives now from basically every media source, right? And then be able to go take action. So, something for the folks that don't open their P&L, which that's an unfortunate, reality that we have. At least they got the 3 bullets that they're looking at. Well, that's how we're meeting them there. Is if we can give them nuggets of opportunity that they can take and run with, and they can make $250 more this month. Well, last time I checked, it's almost $3,000 a year to the bottom line, right? And those things add up. You talked about the nickels and the dimes. They add up over time if you're doing this consistently.
Yeah. Well, I think this is an area where franchisors really miss the target, if they even know the target exists. Because I've been at this for more than 40 years, working at the franchisor level and looking at what they're doing with franchisees, the types of franchisees they attract. The types of people we attract to franchising are not always numbers people. Right. That's not a bad thing. But again, it's the franchisor who needs to step in because, well, you tell me, what's the cost to the franchisor of having a network of franchisees with messy books?
Oh my goodness. So, how many times can you count the ways, right? You think about royalty reporting right off the bat. The lifeblood of the franchisor as they glean royalties, is that accurate, right? Are you getting, underpaid or folks overpaying? Simple things like that. What does your item 19 look like? You've been in franchising for 40 years, Dr. Hayes. You've probably reviewed and forgotten about more FDDs than I've reviewed in my life. But we've seen some good item 19s, but I would venture to say you've seen probably some pretty bad ones as well. And bad could be defined as in many different ways. It could be the quality of the data. It could be the completeness of the data. It could literally be the absence of an item 19 altogether. And in those scenarios, those are costly. Dollars and cents to the bottom line. Dollars and cents. Not only that, but also future growth. I don't know how many franchisees or prospective franchisees want to buy into a company that can't slap together an item 19 and to give them a general idea of expectations on financials versus, the other brands that have very robust item 19. That's another area where I think that cost slip, future opportunity cost that they're losing, as well as the dollars and cents just through royalties is a simple example.
A lot of this comes through training, which franchisors are sometimes, and I would say often, not good at training franchisees on the numbers side of the business, including the financials. And again, many franchisees are going to need a financial coach who will tell them why, when this is 35% and should be 25%, why that being out of whack is costing them money. And maybe costing the franchisor money. It does cost the franchisor money if the franchisee won't validate because the franchisee's not making enough money. And with some training and some coaching and help, that franchisee could be better at operating that business, make money, and then would be willing to say to other people, you really ought to buy one of these because it's a great system. The training is fantastic. They've helped me overcome shortcomings and so forth. But the truth is, Gil, I've been involved with numerous franchisors, and it'll say in the agreement that the franchisees are required to submit a P&L every month in some cases, or quarterly at least. And when I ask about, so do you get quarterly, are you getting 100% of the statements, they laugh. No. We're not. We don't even know if the franchisees are getting financial statements. No. That makes me angry because that's a franchisor's responsibility to help these people make good on their investment, to make money. It's bad for franchising when they don't grasp this responsibility. And if you're not looking at their financials, or if you just have that in there as a requirement, yeah, send us your financials, but we don't do anything with it. Shame on you, franchisor. And that is happening a lot. And this is an area that prospective franchisees, you probably didn't think to ask hey, do you help me with my P&L when I become one of your franchisees? The truthful answer is often, no, we don't. We go hire a bookkeeper, when in fact, that's not the answer, is it?
No, it's not. And it's funny that you say that, because not only did they have that, but it also gave me a false sense of hope when I was going through the processes, because they had a very robust item 19. I mean, they literally had account by account level for years of history of all their corporate accounts in there. And they did that for full transparency as an emerging brand, right? They felt like they had the need to overshare in that area, which made me feel very comfortable, and quite honestly led me to buy within that brand versus the others that didn't share that same level of transparency. So I thought it was very helpful, and I think a differentiator for that brand as an example.
Yeah. So why is financial intelligence, why can't we just say, hey, I need a good bookkeeper, help me understand the financial side of my business? But you formalized it into FFI, franchise financial intelligence. Why? What's the intelligence part that I need to know, or a franchisee needs to know?
So just briefly going back to the stint prior to my franchise, I was in a healthcare firm that was a health tech firm that dealt with a large amount of data. So data was in my, monetizing data and analyzing data at scale was in my prior experience and our team's prior experience. And when you really think about bookkeeping and accounting, historically, not only just in industry, but, also within franchising, it's really been about, let's do the books, let's get the COA, and let's get the taxes done, right? And all those things are very important and need to happen. But as you've seen the emergence in every industry, but especially in franchising, the AI-powered business performance coaching, the AI, analytics, the need for, network level comparative analysis between unit level to unit level, location to location. We work with people like, or entities like Profit Keeper, QVinci, Harmonize. So as we're the financial data hub and we have the reporting and the clean data, they take it to the next level as part of that value continuum of this franchise financial intelligence to be able to bring it to life. Bring it to life for the franchisor, bring it to life for the franchisee, where they're really adding tools and features and capabilities to, again, bring the value and the actions out of that static data that may or may not be reviewed today, and bring it to the forefront of the franchisor and of the franchisee in terms of like cold, hard value. If you do this, you can get this many dollars. That's very powerful, and I think that that's new. So, I don't want to be arrogant enough to say that we're inventing franchise financial intelligence. I think that it's just an awareness of, here's our role in this continuum, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability, and it's going to power then insights that are going to help franchisors make more money and grow. It's going to help franchisees make more profit, and quite honestly, it's going to help suppliers do a better job of supporting them because the data is better and the integrity and the quality of it is more sound.
How did your franchisors respond to you once you started providing your own bookkeeping services and getting the financial intelligence that you needed? Were they afraid of what you were doing, or did they embrace it?
I think they embrace that. We have yet to see a franchisor tell us this is a bad idea or something that's not going to add value in their system. I think everybody understands and recognizes the need for this, and we welcome that. We have franchisor partnerships growing very, very rapidly, and quite honestly, some of that's a testament to the Titus Center and the partnership that we have over the past few years now as we've grown as a company, because the connections that we've made there and the credibility that we have with the center to be able to say, this is what we're trying to do and this is how we're trying to serve the community and the population. But quite honestly, I think it comes down to the franchisor saying, okay, I see the value, but now what are you going to do about it? And a lot of the franchisors, and I love every franchisor partner out there because I respect and acknowledge what they're trying to do, and it's very, very difficult. But you do have to make tough decisions, and I think that some franchisors are weary of mandating a bookkeeper because maybe they got burned in the past, or that bookkeeper or accounting firm or anything, digital marketing firm, any type of supplier, did them wrong in some case. So they're hesitant to do that. However, they also acknowledge that by having multiple suppliers in that one space, they introduce variation, which then undermines the credibility of the data, right? So I think they're seeing the value, and now what they're struggling with is how do we do it? And we're doing a lot of work with franchisors to be flexible and come up with some creative ways to drive adoption in their network. Because once people see the value, then I think the flock kind of comes. But it is tough to get over that hump of, well, I'm not going to require them to use a bookkeeper or a specific bookkeeper, but then I also know that that's going to give me poor results in the end, and I'm just going to have to deal with it in some other way.
So why is this so difficult to convince a franchisor that this is the heartbeat of your franchisee's business, and you essentially encourage them in some ways, help them ignore the heartbeat? Why is that a problem?
Dr. Hayes, if I had to answer that question, I think I'd be a rich man. I think that I've said priorities a couple times, but I do think that as you're trying to grow a franchise, and as you're trying to grow a franchise, not only location, but a franchise brand, there are so many different things. I think about marketing. I'll tell you right now, as an operator, marketing comes up in my household monthly, every single month. Strategy on marketing. Different platforms, investment dollars. Do we put more in Meta? Do we put more in the brand, marketing agency? All of that is like black magic almost. It's like you have all these different coefficients that you're trying to really dial in to optimize that system, almost like a design of experiments. If I go into back in my engineering days, right? They're so focused on those things, and then again the blocking and tackling gets annoyed. So it's not that they don't think it's important, it's just on the list of 5 things to do they didn't get to it that day. We all have that list, but our job and your job and what you're doing right now, and especially at the Titus Center as well, is getting that word out to say it's no longer appropriate to ignore this, especially because we have the tools and the partners to be able to help you.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond just ignoring it. With 4,000, and nobody knows for sure, there could be 4,400, there could be 3,600 franchise brands in North America, but it's somewhere, depending on some of the vendors who track franchising. The government doesn't. People think that they do. The SBA doesn't know how many franchisors are out there. They know how many systems are with franchisees borrowing money, but that's a whole different thing. Franchisors often ignore this, and they ignore the item 19, frankly, because they don't want to tell people how little money they're going to make in the business, and they don't want to dig into the financial side of the business because that's going to hurt them. If the truth is known, they won't be able to sell more franchises. And franchisors in that, before you have 100 franchise locations, you're not making any sizable money. Right. You need the $40,000, the $60,000 franchise fee to come in up front early so you can make payroll for the next couple of weeks. I mean, this is the truth about franchising that people don't want to talk about. So guys like you and guys like me, we've got to be out there championing what we know, financial intelligence, being important to a franchisee, even though the franchisee doesn't know that and isn't a financial person. You're not going to make a lot of money if you don't figure that part out.
It's really
franchisor
true.
And franchisee both need to face
It's really
that.
true. I think one of the things that we do, I think it helps the situation. The franchisees especially, they might not appreciate or even have a wherewithal of the value or kind of what they can unlock with the actual reporting and the financials in terms of the data. But what they do know is when tax season comes, that they need to be prepared accordingly. And what everybody wants to know is, how do I reduce my tax burden? Or better yet in the industry is, how do I optimize my tax position? Well, how do you optimize your tax position is, you need clean and accurate books, right? You can't now, after the fact, get yourself into that tax position without doing the work up front. So it's a little bit like be proactive rather than reactive. And when you put it into a tax perspective, which KTA also supports many franchisees in taxes, 55% of all of our clients have KTA tax, do their taxes as well. We have this one-stop shop. They have kind of a little bit more of a set it and forget it mentality where they know that there's one less thing they have to take care of, so they can go and run and take care of that client fire or that, missed sales job or, the invoice that wasn't paid in the past 60 days. The things that I find usually the operators, those rabbit holes, like you said before, fall into.
Can you think of a scenario, Gil, where if you got a good P&L from a franchisee, that you wouldn't be able to help the franchisee improve their business based on that information? No,
and I say no with conviction. Again, I hate to keep going back to my past, but in the past, a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. So what does that mean? I was adept. My job was to systematically identify and eliminate and reduce waste and variation in systems. And I have yet ever in my career, 25 years of being out here working, have ever seen a system run optimally. Perfect. It just doesn't exist. So while the yields may be low, you may be squeezing in a turnip. I would say that there's always room for improvement, but I think we both know that once you start opening up the books and you have a clear perspective, there usually is vast areas for opportunity for improvement there.
So if you were a franchisor and you would insist on the P&L information coming in from a franchisee, and then you would insist on that franchisee having scheduling an hour to work with a coach to say, here's why you're not making money, or here's why you're not making enough money, or here's where you could make a whole lot more money. Let us show you. Exactly. And again, this is a responsibility of the franchisor. They won't all take that on, but if you're going to buy a franchise, why not look for that? Why not look for a franchisor who will help you with that responsibility? And then we've got to look at, well, it's not the franchisor doing it necessarily. It might be Gil Marques doing it for us. Right. Are you a branch of the franchisor where you will take on coaching franchisees, or maybe coaching the coaches of the franchisor?
Exactly, you nailed it. I think it's more coaching the coaches, right? I think it would be probably inappropriate for us to be able to coach their franchisees because we don't know as much about their business, right? We know about the data, and we can inform you via data because we're a third-party objective entity, right? But really, in the scheme of things, what we want to do is empower and provide and prepare those coaches at the brand. And if you don't have coaches, how do you spin up an AI agent coach that gives you good enough with the data we have? We have those capabilities as well. How do we integrate with your system via API so we dump the data into your data lake and you can have it on your Power BI or analytics platforms? We have many different ways in terms of flexibility to be able to work with different brands. And again, when you say, how can we help them? I think there's many different ways, but I think a very provocative question is, do they want to be helped? You had mentioned it before, but a franchise has to be of a certain level of maturity to say, you know something, I don't do this well. I need to do it well, and I'm going to invest in a partnership like KTA to be able to help me do this because I know that I don't do it well. That's where I think it works best. Brands like Homefront Brands and the Dudens and Michael O'Driscoll, they were working very close with them. Large system to try to get this adoption of all these different brands. Home run franchises, again, Titus Center, Tom Scott, again, rapidly growing brand. How do we keep this under control before I get no P&Ls, right? He was getting no P&Ls when it was very in its infantile state of growth, and he's like, I know I have a problem, and that's only going to get exacerbated as I grow. So let's work together. And we've been working with them 2 years. Great success stories there too. So they have to want to be helped as well. Yeah,
3, maybe 4 of my graduates are home run franchisees, as a matter of fact. So I know they really work hard there at making franchisees successful. You mentioned something that leads to my one of my last questions I wanted to ask you about. AI is just mind-boggling, the kinds of things that we can get AI to do for us or to help us with. Now, there's that caution that AI isn't always right. No. And much to the chagrin of some of my students who rely on AI to write their paper only for AI to write something that I know, that's not true about franchising. So that happens occasionally. But how, and the average franchisee can't keep up with AI. It's just, as I said before, mind-boggling. It doesn't work for the D and the I disc driver in franchising. And most franchisees are going to be in that DI category. And we don't make good sense of AI. So what's a franchisor to do about that? How do you bring AI into your financial intelligence portion of the business?
Yeah, it is such a great question because things change so quickly and being ahead of it is hard for anybody. I mean, this is literally my job, at least from that perspective, and it's very, very difficult to keep up. But I think that the importance is, when you're talking about this franchise financial intelligence and where this is heading, is really like AI empowerment if you think about it, right? You're getting clean data, you're adding it to AI capabilities, but then you're adding a layer of franchise-specific content. That's a different product than what bookkeeping has historically meant, and not just in franchising, but everywhere. So if we have these tools that we can develop and we can provide, and we'll have some tools. Actually, KTA will very here shortly in the next couple of months or so being released. But this is also why we partner with companies like ProfitKeep, like Harmonize, like QVinci, because they are really on the forefront of helping franchise systems, helping franchisors harness AI in a very practical and value-added way. And that's how I would anchor my answer here is AI to me has to be a very clear value-added proposition for us to be able to engage in it. So, for example, at KTA, we use all kinds of KTA use cases for AI internally. So you think about CRM and very common use cases that everybody else has used, but we use it in accounting as well, far beyond just expense categorization. Everybody knows that Home Depot is going to be a repair and maintenance, right? But do you actually know like your forecasted results and how you compared to before? Do you know that your results from last month it stacked up in the 23rd percentile in the network? Like different types of data points that can lead you in different types of areas is how we think that we can add value to the end user. Because in a very short period of time of their attention span, you have to get the point across. And getting the point across to add value to their business sometimes is very difficult. So being able to use AI in the internal processes, being able to use it in QA applications, things like that is good. But then being able to work with some of these other advanced performance business coaches, companies, AI, different agents, using our data, I think is where a lot of value is going to be driven at the unit level for the Z. But then I think it's going to open up a lot of new questions for the ZOR, that like tools that we're working on where maybe you can have an LLM sitting on top of your financial data, ask it any question that you want, could be pretty powerful that they don't have access to today. So that's how we're using AI and how we see it fit into that franchise financial intelligence landscape.
What's it going to cost a franchisor and what's it going to cost a franchisee to get into business with KTA Financial? Can I afford this? I would think that I can't not afford it if I want to be operating at my peak performance. So, I need this kind of intelligence, but there's a cost to everything. There's a cost to not doing any of this. We know that. Correct. There's a cost to doing it as well. So tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have main services around bookkeeping and accounting within these actual functions that we do. I know I was paying a required bookkeeper at the time, $900 a month. I know the average right now is around $450. I think things vary based on complexity, different requirements, whether it's cash-based accounting, accrual-based accounting, are we helping you with that item 19, things like that. But we're generally half or less. So majority of our franchisees pay between $400 and $500. Some are in the threes because it's less complex. Some are in the fives because it's more complex and they have other requirements. But that's really where we are very specific around. Here's your franchise unit. What are your requirements? What are you gleaning from those requirements? Are you requiring monthly P&Ls but then not looking at them? That's going to cost you more. Why don't we just give you quarterlies and then do a summary so you can understand that and keep the cost down? Our deal is we should be able to pay for ourselves as your accounting and bookkeeping partner. That's the value we want to drive. If you're paying $400 a month and we can't add $5,000 of value to you and your business over that month, that year-long time frame, well then you should probably find somebody else that's going to add more value for you as a partner there. So generally that's where we come in, and then obviously a la carte services like business tax returns, personal tax returns, 1099s, other things that business owners classically need, and they're like, oh man, it's that time of year, and I need to have someone help me out again. We hit them up on our tech, on our app, and they elect if they want to use those services or not, and we just go from there. But we try to keep the costs as low as possible. I pride myself as an operator in efficiency, cost efficiency. You could ask my wife in our household how it's run. I run my businesses like that as well, and I expect nothing less for our clients as well. That's my expectation. All this AI stuff is fancy, but nobody can afford $1,500 a month to do it. So what we do when we roll out new AI capabilities, we just give it to you for free. We're just continuously improving, and that's our testament, and the partnership to you as the ZOR system, and ultimately the Z is the client at the unit level as well.
So franchisees are paying for the month-to-month or quarterly service. How about a franchisor? What kind of commitment financially do they make, either on behalf of the franchisees or just corporately directly to you? And maybe by hiring you, I could get my bookkeeping done for less than if I were to go to somebody next door to me or in my local community who doesn't probably know franchising.
Correct. Yep. So basically what happens is we have a bunch of different tiers. So if you think about like an adoption tier, so if we're just a approved vendor and there's 5 other vendors in the space, well, you're going to be at a certain price, but then you're also going to be at a certain level of adoption, right, as well. So it's really the investment that the brand is making into us in adoption, not necessarily in dollars and cents. We have had brands that say, you know something, I want people to go to KTA, so I'm going to subsidize their monthly bookkeeping. I'm going to pay $100 a month, let's say, to incentivize them to go to KTA, and they pay the remainder, right? We've seen brands, and to remain nameless, that pay us directly to just do the bookkeeping for the entire network. Totally, no problem. Where we're mandated in the item 6 in the FDD. So really, along those spectrums, we can work, but obviously the results improve dramatically with the more adoption you get, because with the more data, as everybody knows, the better the insights and the data extrapolation you could do from which to be able to forecast results to be in line with your goals and objectives of the organization.
So my last question, Gil, and this is a big challenge. It may not be possible to do it, but it would be fun if you can. First-year franchisees, what can you tell them to do on the financial intelligence side? What would you tell them to do that's going to make them more money guaranteed in that first year?
I certainly wouldn't guarantee, but I love the question.
You're a C personality, often.
Yeah. It's not always a never, right? It's not binary. So I'll answer this question with an example. We're working with Mason Boswell, Red Boswell's son. Close friends, clients of ours, and he is new out of school, opening his new franchise, launching NTV 360 in Dallas, and our support function with him is a little different, right? So looking at your P&L is the first step, right? And if you're not understanding it, ask questions, whether it be to us, or whether it be to your franchisor, or whether it be to ChatGPT or Google, whether it be going onto our YouTube site and reading the how to read a P&L, just be inquisitive of the numbers. Knowing your numbers, you had mentioned this earlier. I had a outstanding mentor, Simone Newman. She most influential, mentor leader I ever had, and she would pound us on know your numbers, and she would always have a little quiz. She would get everybody just to prove that you don't know your numbers exactly, right? Yeah. But it was so paramount because without knowing that, you're really kind of paralyzed with everything else. So getting those first-year franchisees comfortable with this is a repeatable and consistent. Let's put it on your calendar. Every 3 weeks, you're going to look at your P&L and you're going to review this stuff and you're going to come up with 5 questions to ask your performance business coach. That would be a great start.
Yeah. This is a full circle moment as well. You mentioned Mason Boswell. Red Boswell, IFPG, is a graduate of Palm Beach Atlantic University. He got his MBA, specializing in franchising with me several years ago. And now his son is our graduate student earning an MBA at Palm Beach Atlantic University as well. So if you live long enough, Gil, these things come all the way around back to you in the end.
That's funny. Yeah,
all right. Great. Thank you for lots of great insight on franchise financial intelligence. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Hayes. I really appreciate the time and to have this platform to be able to share that really just like clean books or table stakes. Franchise financial intelligence is where we're going. That's what we're building. That's the conversation we want to have. And as far as franchisors and franchisees that want to work KTA, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find KTA on LinkedIn. But I can't say enough to thank you and the Titus Center for everything you do in franchising. You guys welcomed us in with open arms as newbies, right? And we've been engaged ever since, and really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you as well. Okay, Gil. Say hello to your wife for me, too.
I will, absolutely. Thanks.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast with Dr. John P. Hayes. Tune in next time for more conversation around all things franchising.